Hello, everybody, and what is up? Welcome back to another episode of Seahawks Now. Today, we're going to be talking all things about DK Metcalf trade rumors, the latest on the trade rumors surrounding the Seattle Seahawks star wide receiver. But first, I want to remind everyone to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell for more notifications if you want to never miss a breaking news alert about the Seattle Seahawks. Well, this is the place to be, so make sure you hit that bell for notifications. And as always, this video is brought to you by FanArch. All right, let's get into today's video, guys. A ton of interesting rumors surrounding DK Metcalf, specifically being linked to the Los Angeles Chargers. According to ESPN's Jeremy Fowler, the Chargers are going to be looking for ways to address their wide receiving core this season and this offseason. And one of the ways they're going to do that is by looking to DK Metcalf as well as to the 49ers, Deebo Samuel. So both of these guys are apparently potentially on the trade block. Now, we haven't specifically heard anything from the Seahawks organization about DK Metcalf being on the trade block. So this is purely speculation, right? Purely speculation. But it is definitely interesting to think about because if DK Metcalf was on the trade block, Jeremy Fowler's right. The Chargers would be a fantastic landing spot both for him, and it would make sense for them to want to acquire him. Why is that? Well, a couple of things. If you guys watched any Chargers football this season, you would have seen that the Chargers receiving core was absolutely lacking in depth and quality. They just couldn't catch a pass, especially Quentin Johnston, who is obviously their star receiver. Supposed to be their star receiver. He was drafted in this first round. Everybody thought this kid was going to be a stud. What happened to him? Well, he has maybe the worst hands in the league. And then, they obviously had rookie Ladd McConkey, who was decent, but Justin Herbert, he's a good quarterback, and he needs more weapons. So it makes total sense that the Chargers would want to upgrade that receiving core. What's interesting about targeting DK Metcalf, though, is that he would give the Chargers something that they don't currently have, which is a big body, right? Quentin Johnston, his whole thing is he's shifty, he's very quick, but he's not that big. DK Metcalf would give the Chargers a big body to throw to. It would give Justin Herbert's got a big arm. He loves to throw deep balls. DK Metcalf might fit perfectly with Justin Herbert as his quarterback. It'd be different, much different for him than playing with a Russell Wilson or with a Geno Smith, who maybe a little bit more. Russell Wilson obviously loves to throw the moon ball, but not as powerful of an arm. Herbert's got a powerful arm, like a rocket launcher of an arm. So I would be very interested to see DK Metcalf in that offense, but we don't know if he's actually going to get traded. Now, I want to bring up the Deebo Samuel side of this as well, because Deebo Samuel is reportedly on the trade block, not only for LA, but could he actually come to Seattle to replace DK Metcalf? Well, we're going to get into that in just a second. I'm not so sure if that would make the most sense or not, but the 49ers are reportedly interested in finding a trading partner who might want to trade for Deebo Samuel. Obviously, the contract stuff gets involved too, but I just want to pull up the side-by-side here. This is DK Metcalf against Deebo Samuel from this season, and if you look at the stats, honestly, it's kind of underwhelming for both of them. Looking at this, touchdowns, DK Metcalf, 5 touchdowns, Deebo Samuel, 3 touchdowns. Neither of them really put up the production as far as scoring goes this season. Look at the yards, a little bit better for DK, 992 yards compared to just 670 for Deebo Samuel. And obviously, they both missed some games with injuries. DK only played 12 games. Deebo played even fewer. So you can say, well, they both got hurt, and that's true. They did both get hurt, but I still think this is kind of underwhelming. The yards per reception, DK has him beat pretty well there, 15 to 13. But then the yards after catch is obviously what Deebo has always been known for, is being a yards after catch machine. And you see that, and Deebo has him almost doubled, 421, DK at 263. So I think looking at this, my big takeaway is that I do think that DK Metcalf is the better receiver still. I think he is bigger. I think he is able to make more contested catches. Deebo is, I think, definitely faster, a little shiftier, but Deebo's also a little bit older. And I think that plays into why DK is right now, at least, DK is more valuable as a weapon than Deebo Samuel. So I think, in my opinion, I would have to pass on replacing DK Metcalf with Deebo Samuel But I also just think there's some contract stuff that comes into play. If you're getting rid of DK, you're doing it to save money. You're not replacing him with a receiver of equal, of equal cost. So I don't think that the Seahawks necessarily are going to replace DK with Debo, but what could be the problem is if the Seahawks do want to trade DK Metcalf to the Los Angeles Chargers, let's say they do, and again, this is pure speculation, purely based off of rumors, because there's nothing to indicate right now that they're actually thinking about doing it, other than the Chargers are. We know the Chargers might be interested. We don't know if the Seahawks are interested, but let's say they are. Let's say the Seahawks are interested in trading DK Metcalf to the Chargers. Well, that presents this problem: is that what if the Niners have a better offer for Debo, right? Because the Chargers aren't going to trade for DK Metcalf and for Debo Samuel. They're going to trade for one, but they're not going to be able to afford to trade for both of those guys. So then the question becomes, which team would the Chargers rather have? And again, looking at that side by side, I think it's pretty clear the Chargers would rather have DK. But it all depends on the asking price, right? If the Seahawks are asking for a second-round pick, the 49ers are asking for a third-round pick, it's probably, then the Chargers are going to have a decision to make there as far as, do we want to get the better receiver but give up a little bit more, or do we want to get the older, slightly less productive receiver but only have to give up a third-round pick? If I was the Chargers, I'd give up more for DK, but that is, that's their question to decide. But I do want to just look at the DK Metcalf stats. He's still a good receiver. 12 games, 66 receptions. Again, the yards after catch is not great. But a lot of that's also because he's going up and making contested catches and he ends up falling to the ground afterwards. I still think he can be a 1,000-yard receiver. Obviously, he was 8 yards away from a 1,000-yard season, and he missed 5 games. So I don't think there's any problem with DK Metcalf. But that goes into the last question is, should they even trade him? And if they do, who could replace him, right? Because if you trade DK Metcalf, you're trading your best offensive weapon. So in that case, what would the plan be? Obviously, Jackson Smith-Njigba is in-house, and he is a really talented receiver as well. They're both phenomenal talents. They're both very, very skilled. But do you want to go into next season? Let's say you do trade DK. Do you want to go into next season with JXN as your number one target and no clear number two, right? Tyler Lockett might still be there as your number two, but do you want that? Do you want that to be the case? I would argue no. So then at that point, who are you going to replace him with? Well, you could replace him in the draft, and there are going to be plenty of options available, or you could also look to replace him in free agency. There are going to be guys available in free agency. The question is always going to be, though, is how much are you willing to spend, right? How much do you want to spend in free agency? DK, you're going to pay about $20 million for DK Metcalf in free agency, or if you give him an extension, right? Obviously, you're not going to be targeting a T. Higgins. He's too expensive, right? So let's throw him out the window. Which guys might be in more of a realistic price range that the Seahawks could potentially target in free agency? Could Chris Godwin be in the price range? Maybe. He's coming off an injury, but he's also a really talented receiver, but a bit of a more of a veteran, so that might make him, a little bit cheaper. Could a guy like DeAndre Hopkins be in the price range? Again, veteran guy coming off of a decent season, but he could be a potential replacement, and because he's a veteran, the price might go down. Keenan Allen, same thing. So there are guys who the Seahawks could target. There are veteran receivers, but it is kind of a very veteran-heavy market, and I'm just not sure if the Seahawks want to pay the price for, an older, more experienced, but maybe less productive wide receiver, when that's kind of the reason why you'd be getting rid of DK Metcalf. So then you go down the list. You're like, you could sign a Mike Williams. Again, maybe he's a little bit younger. Probably not going to be super expensive for him. You can sign a guy like a KJ Osborne. He's definitely younger, but also, do you want KJ Osborne? He's had some productive seasons in the past. I don't know. There's a lot to get into, and we'll get into that a lot more, I think, in future videos. For today, the question I have for you guys down in the comments is, do you want to see DK Metcalf traded? And if so, do you want to see him traded to the Chargers? Or would you rather the Chargers trade for Debo Samuel instead, and the Seahawks can keep DK Metcalf around? That's what I want to hear from you guys, but let me know. And as always, go Seahawks, and we'll see you guys tomorrow.